Hey everybody, John here, along with John. It's the John and John hike on the Georgia portion of the Bartram Trail. Ready to get started?
I am. Let's do it.
Let's go. So last night at John's house, we were packing up together in his garage, and we had a blast just geeking out on each other's gear and that kind of thing. Then we weighed our packs, and I'm starting out with a ridiculous 42-pound payload. Where'd you come in at? Around 32 pounds altogether?
32, I think, yeah.
32, including food and the water that we're taking initially. But we decided we're going to be eating really good on this trip, so...
That is a fact.
Ready?
Yeah.
Here's the marker at the southern terminus of the Bartram Trail, which is along the Chattahoochee River. The Chattahoochee River is right over there. That bridge marks the Georgia-South Carolina state line. So we're starting out in northeast Georgia. Our trajectory on the trail is kind of west-southwest for a good distance, and then we sort of turn northward, and we will end up about 3 or 4 miles into North Carolina at Osage Overlook. So we're going to be out here 4 days, possibly 5. Oh, and why is it called the Bartram Trail? Who was William Bartram? William Bartram was an American naturalist who explored the southern Appalachian hinterlands during the late 1700s. He was a Quaker abolitionist and fierce defender of Native American customs and beliefs. All unpopular ideas among many Americans at the time. All right, well, if you're going to do the Bartram Trail, I guess you should know that if you park at the southern terminus at Russell Bridge, you've got to cross the road to hit the trail, which is right over here. It's marked by these yellow markers, but yeah, on the parking lot side, there is a trail that goes off into the woods, and I thought that's where we were going, so I guess, yeah, good thing John was here to tell me otherwise. Off we go! So on this first day, we won't have to do a lot of climbing. There's not a great deal of elevation change, so we get to sort of ease into it, which I guess is good, since our packs are heaviest now. So just to our left, there's the Chattahoochee River. So we follow pretty close to the river for a while. Then we split a bit to the north of it for a time, and then we come back to it again. So that'll all be today. Earl's Ford Road and 7 miles. A bit beyond that is probably where we'll camp on this first night. Somewhere around the 8 or 9 mile mark. So we're on a little foot care stop here. I started to feel a little bit of a problem with the toenail. The toenail on this toe was digging in to the neighboring foot. So I had a little flap of skin that was already, you know, kind of torn and some reddishness there. So John got his kit out, and we fixed me up a little foot powder, a bandage, and then some tape around that. So thanks a lot, John. Appreciate it. We're at a beautiful little campsite that's about, what, 1.5 miles in, you think?
Yeah, I'd say about 1.5 miles in.
And it's right here along the Chattahoochee.
Look at that duck out there. That's an interesting color.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
Yeah. Look, that duck, it's got a red bill, red like a cardinal, a black head, and a white, mostly white body. Interesting.
That really is a sharp-looking duck.
Don't know what kind of duck that is, but there's 2 of them. You can see the smaller one close to the bank there. And they're just lazily swimming upstream on the Chattahoochee River. So yeah, this is a beautiful little spot. About a mile and a half in. Here's your fire ring. And the trail is just right down there. There's a footbridge. When you come across that going northbound, you want to take a right. The trail goes on down that way. But just to your left is this beautiful spot. Here's something interesting, this right here, that looks, at times when you see this, it looks like a piece of foil, or it looks like a piece of glass. It looks like broken glass sometimes. So this flaky stuff right here, I don't know what it is, some kind of rock or mineral, and you can see it shining there. So it has like 2 or 3 different appearances to it. This could be a piece. Yeah, it is a piece. Sometimes at a certain angle, it just looks like a piece of a wrapper or something that somebody dropped. And then sometimes it looks like foil, but it's ultra thin. Then when you pick it up, this looks like a piece of dirty plastic or something, It's very odd. But does anybody know what that is? I spotted that on the Foothills Trail also. So you find it in western South Carolina and in northeast Georgia. What the heck is that stuff? Also of interest are these trees. I've seen quite a few of these. It's got an interesting bark pattern, and John says that's loblolly pine. We don't have those in Pennsylvania, and they are big suckers. The ones in this forest, anyway. They're huge.
They are. I got one twice that size in my property.
You got one that's what?
Twice that diameter.
Twice that diameter? Wow.
Yep. It's beautiful.
Yellow markers on the Bartram Trail, and they're fairly frequent. It's pretty well marked, and excellent maintenance so far. We haven't had any issues with any blowdowns or anything. Hurricane Helene slammed this area 5.5 months ago, and they did excellent cleanup here on the Bartram Trail. You got orange? Wow. I told you folks, it's deluxe, it's gourmet eating out here. He said he will be packing the peels out, just to reassure everybody. Yes, indeed. Let's see what he's having for lunch. I'll let you look before I look. What's that? Ah, classic marinara with pasta. Okay. From Good to Go. So that looks like a piece of glass, but that's that, sort of rock or mineral or whatever the heck that is. There's another piece there. Looks like there's quite a bit in this stream here. So I got a map here. Here's where we started. And let's see, there was Adeline Branch that we crossed, Bynum Branch, and now we are here at Laurel Branch. And it's mile, what did you say? About
4.1.
4.1. So, yeah, we're here. So we're going to continue on. And here's Earl's Ford Road. That's at 6.5 or something like that. And I think we're going to continue on down here. Once we get back along the Chattahoochee River, on this map here are 1, 2, 3, 4 campsites indicated. So it looks like we have plenty of good camping options along there. And that's probably as far as we'll go today. So that'll be, maybe 8.5 miles. A good distance to ease into it on the first day, I think. John pointed out something interesting over here. Look at the markings on this tree right there. Tell us about that.
I'm not sure what kind of tree it is, but this is from a yellow belly sapsucker, which is a woodpecker. It's the only woodpecker that will do that, where it horizontal lines will be across, and you can see it's just all the way up the tree. where they did that, and just horizontal lines all the way up.
Yeah.
Yellow belly sapsucker.
That is very cool. We're coming up along War Woman Creek. Well, what do you think of my new trail runners? North Face, first time they are being put to the test. Look here, peanut M&Ms, courtesy of John. The treats just keep on coming. We're stopped here at the crossing of War Woman Creek. There's a 66-foot bridge here. And then the trail continues over there, probably goes that way. We stopped to sit for a minute and get out the BioFreeze. I put a little on my hip. John's got a muscle in his leg that's bothering him a little bit, so guess we'll call this the BioFreeze break, huh, John?
Right. Yeah.
Anything interesting to note on the map?
Well, this 66-foot long bridge right here, and then after that, Earl's Ford, which is about 0.2 miles from here, which is an interesting little place, campsites there. And then after that, we're off to our final destination, possibly for the day.
So at this point, the trail comes down to this road. So this is Earl's Ford Road, and if you look back this way, you can see how it comes right up to the water there. On our left, oh, here comes someone. On our left is a tributary to War Woman Creek, and then which flows over this way. But watch and see if these people drive right across. It looks like that's what they're gonna do. We want to see this. There's two little trucks. I wouldn't say Jeeps, right? But these two trucks, it looks like they're gonna drive across right through the river here and to this other side. We're not going to film the whole thing because, you know, privacy issues and all that, but we'll give you a little glimpse of it. Now here comes the other one. Back alongside the Chattahoochee River, on the lowest point of the trail, around 1,700 feet.
It's just like you said, 3 campsites coming up. It says the second one has 2 to 3 room for 2 to 3 tents.
Cool. Well, we're at mile 8.3. We decided we're stopping here for the night. There's my tent. Check out John's setup. He's got a tarp shelter going on there. And about 1.5 pounds of those 42 pounds I mentioned was from this right here. A little something to celebrate getting to camp. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but let's just say it's not suitable for children.
It's medicinal purposes only.
That's right, medicinal purposes. Santé, as they say in French.
Merci beaucoup.
This flask has got 4 marks on the side, breaking it into 5 portions. So if we're going to be out here 4 nights, we can go down past the first portion tonight. If it's only going to be 3 nights, well, you know, we could do a little more on the 3rd night, I guess. And then that may weigh at least a pound. I got my deluxe homemade trail mix. There's a lot going on in there. There's some, you see I threw some dried apricots in at the top. So here is a hiker's guide to the Bartram Trail. And that place where we saw those guys driving through the river, which is at Earl's Ford Road, it says, although the ford features campsites, one must be prepared for weekend revelry and a host of people who enjoy crossing the stream with ATVs and large jeeps and trucks. It's best to move on, particularly on a weekend, to nearby campsites away from the road.
They just lay it out there.
Which is what we did. We're 2.1 miles on from there, I think. Well, since I brought the tarp and the bungee cords, why the heck not? I had the time. I just thought I'd mess around, see what I could do here. So, we got a little extra shelter. This corner will be flapping in the breeze, and if it actually rained, there'd be drippage off of here. But there'd be direct drippage from the sky anyway, so what the heck. Partially covering my front porch. So there we have it. Here's another use for the Armor All cloth. If you have an open cup like mine, just lay it over it between sips. Keep that steam in there. So that was Dix Creek Falls back there, way back there by now. And by the way, that's not right on the trail, but there's a side trail that goes to the south, about 0.2 miles, so that you can see the falls. Pretty awesome. It's mid-afternoon, maybe about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, something like that. And we didn't get started from camp until 10 this morning. We thought we'd get an earlier start, but because of the rain, we didn't. And, you know, we took our time. And it's been a steady rain since then, all day so far. Not heavy, but unrelenting. We've been climbing most of the day. We passed Speed Gap, and now we're headed toward, what's the next gap? Bob Gap, that sounds right, yeah. And then there's a third one. And it looks like maybe we're coming down to Bob Gap right now. We are looking forward to getting to War Woman Dell. There's a shelter there that we can take a break under for a while. Well, we're coming up to War Woman's Dell very soon here, which is at mile 18.6. So that will be 10.2 miles so far for the day. It's been a rough one. We've spent probably 80% of our time climbing, and we had the rain to contend with until 3 p.m. or so. And then it stopped, and now we've got a little bit of sun. You can see to the left. You can see I'm in a t-shirt now. Should I talk about who's that behind me? So John gave me the honor of trying to think of a trail name for him. And so yesterday, as I thought of them, I threw out some ideas, and we both agreed maybe he should sleep on it. But he has slept on it. So now I present to you
the Red Roamer.
The Red Roamer. You can spot him out here by his signature Cincinnati Reds cap that he wears when he's backpacking. So we got Old Dude and Red Roamer looking forward to a hot supper down here at War Woman Dell, where there is a, like a picnic shelter, a pavilion type thing with tables and so on. So, and then we're thinking that we will camp tonight about a mile on. We're going to go ahead and eat before we finish up and hike to camp, since it'll be easier to do our cooking down here with the tables and such. All right, I got the Texas State Fair chili. What do you got?
Chicken and dumplings.
Okay. See, you're adding a little cheese to it.
A little cheese and some nuts. Okay, I gotta say, this chicken and dumplings is very good. But it's been a long, cold, rainy day. So this hits the spot.
Mm-hmm. Check it out. We're eating beside the fire. Hi there. Well, you've seen the silver streak, but you haven't seen the silver blanket. Well, it's been kind of a rough day, and we had the rain this morning, so that got some things wet, despite my best efforts to keep them dry. So my regular puffy blanket is damp. Maybe I could still get by with using it, but for the first time, I busted out this emergency blanket that I always bring. I always have that in my kit. This is the first time I've ever unfolded it, and so it basically just seems like a thin piece of foil, but I can already tell it's going to be quite cozy. I have a base layer on. My gloves are damp, so I'm going to use this dry pair of socks. I'm going to put those over my hands tonight, like so. Maybe not all the way. And I did have a spare dry t-shirt. So we had stopped a few miles back when I was, before the sun came out and it warmed up. I was feeling cold, and I said, I think if I've got something dry to put on top, I'd better do that. And we stopped, and I dug out the dry t-shirt, and then a fleece vest that I have under this, that was dry. And my puffy jacket felt kind of damp, but I actually think it seems dry now. So my shoes and socks are fine, though. They didn't, I still have the same ones on. So that's what I'm sleeping in tonight. Now, we're not anticipating any more rain. Tomorrow's high, I think, is around 72, and if we come to a sunny spot tomorrow afternoon, then we can stop and lay some things out and try to get them drier. So things should get no wetter than they are going forward, and possibly drier. for our next probably 2 days out here, although we may have to, it may take us a third day, just a few miles to get out. That would be on a day that rain is anticipated, possibly heavy rain, so we'd really like to finish before that. Anyway, good night. Well, it's day 3, and this is going to have to be our final day on the Bartram Trail. So we're back here at War Woman Dell, where we got picked up, tried to flag somebody down on the road, and wouldn't you know it, an AT thru hiker from 2020 called Rover just happened to come by and gave us a ride into Clayton. We offered him money, but he wouldn't take it. Then once we got into Clayton, Georgia, we called Sherpa Al, who does shuttles for the Bartram Trail, and he came and picked us up to take us to my car, which was parked at Osage Overlook, which is where we'd intended to finish. And so in the meantime, I left some of my stuff here because, you know, I didn't, if it ended up that we had to walk the road, I mean, I didn't want to carry all the stuff. I figured we could, you know, bring the car back here and get most of my stuff. So now I'm retrieving it, and then we're going to go back to Russell Bridge to Red Romer's car, and then head from there back to his house, driving in tandem. So we decided to make the call because we had 2 more days allotted, but we weren't sure that we could finish in 2 days. And then if it required another day, heavy rain is forecast for then. So we just weren't, both of us, our stomachs have been bothering us a little bit, and we barely got warm enough last night. Went down to, 35 or so. Yeah. And, you know, my gloves were wet, so there was no way to get my hands warm except, you know, pockets or putting them against my belly or something like that. So I didn't want to have to finish up packing up stuff that was wet and all that. So, but, you know, like I always say, there are no failed outings, only experiences gained and lessons learned. But anyway, old dude and
Red Romer
signing off. And now the drying party begins. Some of John's stuff over there. Here, my tarp and tent, sleeping pad. Over here, my puffy blanket and my big tarp. So that emergency blanket, it's not going to be easy to refold that thing to the tiny rectangle that comes out of the package, but I guess it can be reused. We'll see what we can do with it. But yeah, these after trip things, not something you often see on videos, so thought we'd give you a little taste of it. But hey, we'll see you on the next adventure. Thanks for watching.